Jack hated rain. Growing up in rural Texas, he'd seen it turn roads to mud and make his granddad's old house creak like a living thing. Now at 30, he drove a delivery van in Austin, and rainy shifts were the worst part of his job. Drops pounded the roof, the windshield fogged up, and the radiator hummed like a tired beast. But that night, the rain brought something more than just dampness. The shift started late, a delivery to the outskirts, a cluster of old farms where streetlights were scarce and houses hid behind trees. Rain had been falling since 6, heavy and cold, flooding the road until the wipers could barely keep up. Jack turned onto a dirt track, headlights catching only wet branches and puddles like black mirrors. The radio crackled, the DJ's voice drowning in static, replaced by a faint rustle like breathing behind him. Jack switched it off, muttering, "Damn weather." He pulled up to an abandoned barn, the delivery address. No one was around, just rain hammering the tin roof, sounding like muffled groans. Jack honked, but no answer came. Sighing, he pulled up his hood and stepped into the downpour, clutching the package. Water streamed down his face, boots squelched in the mud, and the drops on his hood didn't just tap. They whispered, forming words, "Stay, stay." Jack froze, glancing around. Nothing, just darkness and rain. He knocked on the barn door, but instead of a reply, there was a creak, slow, drawn out, like something heavy shifting inside. The door was ajar, a damp, rotting wood smell seeping out. Jack shone his phone's flashlight inside. The beam caught an empty floor, slick with wet patches, and something in the corner. Footprints. Bare, narrow, with long toes, trailing from the door into the shadows. They glistened, fresh, though the rain couldn't have made them there. Jack stepped back, but the whisper grew louder. "You came. Stay." Back in the van, he tossed the package onto the passenger seat and started the engine. The windshield fogged, and as he wiped it with his sleeve, he saw the raindrops weren't just sliding down. They traced thin, twisting lines, spelling out, "Mine." Jack cursed, flipped on the wipers, but the lines reappeared, faster than the water could wash them away. He hit the gas, tires spinning in the mud, and the whisper came from under the hood now, low, wet, like a gurgle from soaked lungs. "Don't leave. Mine." The drive back felt endless. Rain slammed the glass so hard the headlights barely cut through. Jack turned the radio back on, hoping to drown out the whisper, but instead of music, the speakers spat static, voices breaking through, dozens, hundreds murmuring his name. "Jack, Jack." He shut it off, but the voices lingered, echoing in the drumming rain, the squeak of the wipers, the hum of the engine. He gripped the wheel, trying to focus, but caught movement out of the corner of his eye. In the rearview mirror, a figure flickered. Tall, thin, hunched, made of water, it stood on the roadside, holding something. Jack blinked, it was gone. When he reached the highway, the rain eased slightly, but the tension didn't. He pulled into a gas station, hands shaking as he opened the package, just to see what he'd delivered. Inside was a wet rag, old and torn, reeking of swamp. Embroidered on it was a name, Jack. He threw it in the trash, but the smell stayed, heavy, sticky, clinging to the van. The windshield fogged again, and words appeared, scrawled by an unseen finger. "You'll come back." The night dragged on. Jack stayed at the gas station till dawn, lights on inside the van. Rain tapped the roof, and every beat whispered, "Mine, mine." He stared out the window, afraid to blink. Under the nearest streetlight stood a figure, fluid like water, with arms hanging too long, brushing the ground. Its face was empty, but Jack felt its gaze, cold, piercing, like wet fingers brushing his mind. It didn't move, just waited, drops streaming off its body, leaving tracks on the asphalt, long, narrow, with extra toes. He tried to stay awake, but his eyes drooped. In a half-dream, the whisper grew louder, closer, wrapping around him. "You're mine, you're mine." Something cold brushed his neck. Not a hand, but a trickle of water, soft and sticky like webbing. Jack jolted awake. No one there. But the seat beside him was damp, and the rag he'd thrown out lay there again. The name Jack was now stitched in red thread, glistening like fresh blood. At sunrise, the rain stopped. The figure vanished. The rag was gone, but tracks remained on the asphalt, leading from the gas station back to that dirt road. Jack quit 2 days later. He stopped taking night shifts and avoided wet streets. But sometimes when a storm rolled in, he heard a whisper outside. Faint, familiar, "Come back, mine." And in the puddles under his house, tracks appeared. Bare, narrow, with long toes, always pointing to his door. Local old-timers later told him a tale about the wet one who walks in the rain, seeking those she claims. They say she leaves tracks and whispers names until she takes what's hers. Jack doesn't believe it, but he doesn't own an umbrella anymore.